Hello and welcome back to the second part of me redesigning the Winx Club fairies because I don't like how they look in the reboot. And since I'm an artist, I can draw them however I like and don't have to complain about it for too long. And if you are new here, let me quickly explain you what you're watching. If you clicked on this, you probably know what the Winx Club is. And you might know that there's a reboot coming soon. The reboot is about to come out in October, I think, but we already got some sneak peeks and some snippets of the new look and style. To keep it short, it's disappointing, at least for me. I've been a fan of the Winx Club since it came out. Actually, I got into drawing characters because of the old style of the fairies. I did drawings after drawings after drawings of this show and even filled a whole book of all the transformations, all the characters, all the animals, all the fairies, not the fairies, the pixies, into a book, which I still haven't found yet. I talked about it before, but I still haven't found it in my old art stuff. Small me was obsessed with fairies and especially this show. And I always kept some appreciation for this show, because without it, maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at today with my artworks, or my art in general. So when I first heard about the reboot, I was so excited, and then I saw it. So I decided to do better and reimagine the Winx Club, how I would put them into a new show without them losing their spark, which made them so special for me back then. And that's what I'm sharing with you today, my illustration process, and with that my decisions in designing, and also my opinions about the new designs and also the old designs. Just decisions and opinions. But before I start, a quick disclaimer again. I recognize that the fashion of the Winx Girls in the eyes of many is not really age appropriate, like the short costumes and the big heels for teenage girls. I get that. That's why I purposely made sure to age them up in my designs. In my interpretation, they are no longer teens. They're in their mid-20s, mid to late 20s, like adults. Otherwise, it would be kind of uncomfortable for me. But with that said, let's get into the illustrations. So, for today, I'm going to start with Stella. Stella, the fairy of the sun, the moon, and the stars. The princess of Solaria, and also the first fairy we ever see in the show in their fairy form. She is known for her sense of fashion, her enthusiastic personality, and her snarky lines. She's that girl, popular and pretty. Sometimes she also falls into the kind of dumb blonde stereotype. First few seasons did the balance quite well, of her being a comedic relief, but still having a deeper characterization, besides that being blonde and rich and a princess. If you take a second look, she's actually quite more than the stereotype and is quite a loyal friend, and she does have the least toxic relationship, if you would ask me. But we are not here to write a full characterization on a school essay. We're here to talk about the design choices that were made in the visual creation of this character. Also, I think everyone that's still here knows who Stella is. So I have all my reference pictures and I'm gonna go to the side so I can blend in the speed painting bigger for you. So first look at the reboot design. At the first look, the design itself is not horrible, but it's also not good. And I also think that the style choice of the 3D renders, of the 3D models, just makes it look so much worse than it could be. If you look at it, the outfit is quite simple and kind of similar to the original outfit. I like that they keep the two-piece clothing and didn't put her in a dress. Solaria, Stella's home planet, home world, is fueled by the sun after all. And it does make sense for them, or for her, to wear like summer clothing, like crop tops and shorts or skirts. I dislike the shape of the skirt though a lot. It flares out at the bottom like a bell or like a trumpet, and it just doesn't look nice overall. And I don't see any meaningful motifs or themes behind it. Like this kind of skirt would make more sense for Flora, I think. Like the shape of a flower, of like those trumpet flowers. And I think a less stiffer looking fabric would have looked so much better with it. And that's also what I went with. I put her into a skirt and top combination as well, as you can see here. The Reboot top on the other side I don't hate. I like how the multiple straps build a pattern around her neck, like some kind of jewelry. While researching the Reboot and also my own designs and reference and everything, I tried to find what this kind of pattern reminds me of. But I'm so lost with, I can't grasp it. Because the Reboot, the outfit kind of gives me the same vibe as the old original, but the first appearance Stella had in the show. Like, it has the same vibe somehow, even though it's really different, but it has like something similar, and I cannot quite grasp it, and I think it has to do with the strappy part. The closest I can describe it is that they maybe took some inspiration from old or antique fashion era from Egypt with the collar themes and the bracelets going on, like the neck piece in the Reboot, the metal bracelets from the original, and whatever they try to do with the Reboot here, whatever that's going on. Also with the pattern in the wings, like there's a theme going on, but I just cannot put into words what I think. And I don't know if this whole section just made a sense for you, but if you know what I mean, please let me know. After all, I'm not a fashion student or designer or anything. I don't have anything to do with fashion. But yeah, back to clothing. I wanted to keep the sun and the moon into my whole theme a bit more, because besides the color, I don't think the Reboot design has a lot of those themes going on, or of those motifs. So I made her top look star-shaped. It looks cute. Also, it's a star top. I thought it fit. And her name is Stella after all, which to my knowledge does have the meaning of star, like a tiny star. With the loose tips of the star shape, like at the bottom, it also resembles the original top with the loose spikes, the flowing fabric. All words are difficult today. It's the heat. Another aspect I took from the old design is the jewelry. In the old show she is seen with those blue bracelets, and in my head they always translated into like this light bluish metal, like a blue tinted silver. Jewelry in general is kind of important for Stella's character and in her life. Just think of wearing the scepter ring of Solaria. The beginning of the show, like the first season, was just the Winx Club trying to protect this damn ring from the tricks. So it plays a really big role. Of course, I don't know if she's going to have it in the Reboot, but honestly I don't care. In my version, she still has it and she still wears it, at least in a fairy form. So, while we're at the topic of jewelry, if you watched my first video about my rings redesigns, you might guess what's coming next. Yes, me complaining about their arm designs, or the lack of. Again, a design that has so much going on in the dress and in the rings, and then nothing at the arms. It's not that obvious with Stella though, because her skin color, hair color and her clothing color kind of all blends together. I'll talk about the colors later, don't worry. So yeah, besides her one scepter ring, I gave her multiple rings, and instead of the small bracelets, the big bracelets, I gave her multiple ones and thinner ones, and also a belly button piercing. I just think Stella would rock one. She's not wearing ultra low-waisted stuff for nothing. Like, it fit. It's a cute detail, I think. Last part of her outfit is the shoes. And shoes are a bit of a difficult topic for me, I would say. I love boots, especially platform boots. So the OG Winx boots will forever be my favorite. I still dream of an own pair. I love the old knee-high platform boots, but it wouldn't really fit the vibe I was going with my illustration. And in the Reboot they look to be boots as well, but thigh-high and sparkly, which I kind of like. It looks interesting and it's a bold fashion statement, which does fit Stella. But then thinking about Solaria again, would you really wear like shoes like that? We currently have 35 degrees here and I could not think of that. I know it's varies and not everything has to make sense, but sometimes I'm like, why though? So what I did instead, I gave her thin and pointy heel with like just a thin strap, like a more beach or summer day appropriate. With the pose I chose for Stella at the end, like in my final illustration, you cannot see the shoes too well, but it doesn't really matter that much. In addition, I gave her some thigh-high sheer stockings, literally stockings, because I like the idea of her having something thigh-high. It's something different to the other girls. The effect of those sheer stockings will only be seen when I start coloring. I took inspiration from those kind of shimmery, glittery tights, leggings, but yeah, it's going to be visible. It's going to be visible if I start the shading and the rendering. Maybe I blend in the picture of what I mean. But before I go to the coloring and talk about the shading specifically, I want to address the hair. Specifically the bangs. Not mine. I know, who am I to judge about bangs? But please, look at this. What the fuck is going on? This hair does not scream Princess of Solaria, who could buy a whole team of hairstylists to do her hair every morning. It looks more like I watched a YouTube video and I think I know how to cut my fringe at 2 AM in the bathroom. On every picture I see it's also different, and in her human form she doesn't have it at all, like this straight across bangs. She only has like 2 side pieces. I don't mind this, but these bangs just look awful. And I don't even think it's the bangs themselves, because Stella is known for bangs and they look good on her. They fit her style, her vibe. But it's the 3D model. As someone who did a semester of 3D modeling, I know how fucking hard it is. But come on, do better. I hope they're gonna fix the hair, like not just for Stella, but like for all the girls in the actual show. That it's just like a preview. The final rendering is gonna be a bit more prettier, better, not. It looks so stiff, like a helmet. I hate it. It makes me sad. And I have a really high tolerance for bad haircuts. I'm really not that picky. Just saying. I enjoy Stella with her hair down though. It's nice. She does have nice hair, technically. But then again, render model issues in the reboot. I don't repeat myself now. So I tried to do my girl justice and give her the long, flowy hair she deserves. Her bangs still with a slight V-taper and not like straight across. A bit fuller and less blunt, and also those face framing strands of hair. And also I thought it's cute to put a little bit of jewelry into her hair. So she got those tiny beads. At first I also wanted to give her the hairband, a hair hoop, because it's iconic. But then I decided against it. I wanted to try something different. I thought about giving her a bigger bandana or like a head scarf, are they called like that? Like a headscarf people wear instead of hats to protect themselves from the sun. With that thought, I also thought about giving her some sunglasses, and then I decided not to go with both ideas and just give her the sunglasses. I didn't want to overload my design. The glasses up in the hair, they break up the shape of her otherwise uniform hair mass quite well, like a hairband would do, but a bit more interesting. Also, sunglasses on the nose would hide too much of her face. Yeah, so that was a good compromise. Staying at the face, let's talk about the colors now. In my last video of the Winx Club, I talked about how the group doesn't look that nice together, like color-wise, and I still stand by that. With Stella's design, they at least kept their old, or like her old colors for the most part. Her hair is still blonde, she still got the orange outfit, but the blue details from her last outfit are missing. Like, it was not much in the original, just the bracelets and the hairband, and I'm not sure if her hair ties also were blue, but it still was a bit more variation, which bothers me, because just like with Flora, no, there's zero contrast in her design, and you need a bit of color contrast, at least a tiny bit. And I know my illustration was also heavy on the orange and the warm tones. I still try to stay more closer to the original. Yeah, but the original also has like a different color for the wings. So yeah, it just does not work so well with the model, I think. Yeah, I don't know. What I did change is that I made her a tiny bit more tan. Stella is a white girl, obviously, but if you compare her to Bloom and Tekna or Musa, she does have a little bit more warmth in her skin. Like, again, sun fairy. It makes sense for her to be a bit more warmer. In the reboot, they seem to have ditched that completely, at least in comparison, because now she seems to have the same complexion as the other three I just named. I also decided to give her a makeup look focusing more on the orange on the eyes and lips, and also gave her pointy nails. Lastly, the wings themselves. I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, but I still stand by that the original wings designs work so well. So simple shapes, yet individual for every girl. I like that Stella's wings were more spiky instead of like a butterfly wing again. The butterfly wings for like many of them make them look uniform in a way I don't quite like personally. So I keep the inspiration from the original and used the shape and pushed it into a variation that's a bit more extreme. I wanted to go more into the vibe of her having a star behind her, like longer spikes, or the rays of the sun, like this kind of thinking I had while doing her wings, with the big focus on the silhouette of the design itself. And I also added a bit of detail like I did with the flora wings, just some stripes to keep the theme again. Like the bracelets are linear, so is the detail in the wings. That's what I mean with stripes. And also keeping the color simple, not to overwhelm the eyes, and also giving them the glow that every wings get. Also ditching the pink from the Reboot completely. And with that, Stella is finished. My second for today is Musa, the fairy of music. I feel like Musa and Stella are a good duo. They both have strong personalities and their own minds. Also, these two have the best one-liners in the show, at least in the German dub. They just roast people all the time and are probably the reason why I am so snarky. That's why I put them together in this video. Yeah, at the beginning they seem so different though. Musa was portrayed as the less feminine, more tomboyish girl. When I was younger, I honestly didn't think too much about it or didn't read that much into it. Like, yeah, she was less typical and girly than Stella, for example, but for me it wasn't that big of a deal and still. But for like design choices, it's important to keep it in the back of your head, to keep it in mind, but also not to get too hung up on it. In her fairy form, her original design still worked with a short dress and some wedged heeled boots, like still heels, but not, yeah, wedge heeled. The Reboot did a good job of keeping the overall vibe, I think. And I think some of the elements work well, but I think a lot of it is an issue with the style, with the model again, like the rendering. I don't want to sound like a 3D model hater. It's the opposite, but there are many issues. This one just feels a bit boring, it feels unfinished. So let's go through it step by step, like before. The dress at first, like always. I feel like Musa's clothing, besides maybe Flora, got the least changes from the old to the new. The only difference, like the only big difference, is the cutout on the stomach instead of the mesh see-through. It's still a one strap dress, like one strap on the shoulder. It's still short, it's kind of red. Okay, it has a slit at the hip with a short underneath, but that's minor. That's it, and I didn't really took inspiration from it, so I changed clothing quite a bit. Instead of the dress, I went with a short, a skirt in the top. The skirt I kept simple but short, like the same length as the other ones. No flare at the bottom, no slit, just really basic. For the top part I tried a different approach. Instead of the one shoulder look, which does fit her hip hop vibe, I will admit, I gave her a sleeveless top with a high neck. I just think it kind of ties in with the tomboyish theme, like no cleavage, just an unisex clothing color, not the unisex clothing, but like a unisex color, like just high neck. But also because I was a bit inspired by the K-pop fashion, since Musa is inspired by East Asian, I think. I'm not quite sure which country exactly, but K-pop fashion in general is like really interesting as a reference. And when I did my research, I noticed some K-pop idols, K-pop groups more often wore those style of shirts, and it looked cool, and it seems to be a bit practical if you like singing and dancing and performing, which Musa does. Like, she's a fairy of music, and in her transformation she dances. Maybe I have to throw in here that I have no idea about K-pop. That I just think the fashion is cool while still being stylish and practical. Or I guess it's going to be practical. They have to move a lot, and I think I just like it, the theme for her. Like for me, to connect my design with the original again, I added the mesh part back in, but instead of just sheer fabric, I used a fishnet fabric. It makes her look a bit more grown up, a bit more edgy and visual interesting, while still technically doing the same job. I also used that fabric combo for a thigh-high stocking, but only on one leg to push some asymmetry in the design. I feel like asymmetrical designs fit characters with strong personalities that don't always go with the mainstream, and that's definitely me. Since I skipped the one shoulder look and have the symmetry now up and the torso, I wanted to get that imbalance again in the legs. No, I'm not the biggest fan of Musa's original boots. They don't fit her dancer theme that well. Same with the Reboot. On the boot of the Reboot, technically the lace-up boots are fine, and I also first considered to give her like some combat boots, like some stronger ones, not some dainty heels, but it just looked a bit boring in my design sketches. Like shape-wise, if you look at the silhouette, a simple outfit with a simple boot, it's just a bit too boring. It was looking too flat, not a lot was happening. I didn't want to go fully into the sneaker route either, even though they would have fit her performer theme a bit better than boots. In my first draft, I actually put Musa into some baggy pants for the hip-hop theme she kind of has. But it looked so off as a fairy outfit, like not really magical. During the research for something else, I stumbled across a do-it-yourself project on Pinterest for upcycling jeans or pants in general for into boot covers or leg warmers. I don't know the specific name for this, but design-wise they really fit well because I could add a lot of weight to the bottom of the illustration of the outfit to make it all a bit more interesting, and it worked quite well. It was a nice compromise, more interesting than sneakers or plain boots, but still visually interesting and practical. Speaking about practical, in the original Musa has this random band with strings attached on her upper arm. I don't know why. I don't hate it, I don't love it either. I just don't understand it. In the Reboot they also just give her this one band on her. Again, I don't get it. For my design, I at first wanted to add the mesh gloves, like a fishnet glove from the hand to the elbow, but it was just too much, it was too overwhelming, too many lines. So I also went with pants, or like, better said, like strings again, on each arm and also on the stomach to tie it together, to not have just one random band around her arm. And that's the issue with some designs, that they do something, you don't really know why, but it doesn't repeat in the design, and it's like, commit to it. And not to the hair, which is the fun part. Like, all of it was fun, but the hair was especially fun. In the original she had two short ponytails or buns. I see people say it's ponytails, I see people say it's buns. I don't think it matters, because she's always seen wearing them, even in her civilian outfit. From season 3 onward, she's seen wearing her hair longer, and honestly, I like both styles. The short ones feel more cheeky and more youthful, while the long feel more sassy. I couldn't decide at first what I wanted to go with, but what I knew was, whatever I did, I was not going to give her those sad braids she got in the Reboot. What is with those designers and the scrawny braids? First Flora, no Musa. They look depressing for a magical fairy, in my humble opinion. Her bangs are also a bit chopped in the Reboot, but unlike with Stella, I don't really mind it from Musa. She feels like the kind of person who actually does cut her own bangs and still rocks them. She seems to be a bit more alternative in her style and her character, so I'm not bothered by them for once. So I'm not bothered by them. Like I said earlier, I have a high tolerance for bad haircuts. And honestly, bangs are Musa's best hairstyle. In the original design, she has not a hairband but like headphones. Super fitting, super cute, and also added some color contrast to her otherwise really dark hair. In the reboot she has nothing, but those sad little braids are beyond saving anyway. So for my design I gave Musa long hair again, 2 long ponytails and her fringe, similar to her Enchantix form, just with 2 face framing strands. It feels cool and still being Musa without being too girly. Now to the fun part. I added some hair piercing, some hair rings. I don't know what they're called. I don't even know if they have an exact term. I once saw them somewhere in a maybe editorial photo shoot. I don't know. But I saw this concept once and always wanted to add it to a character or like an illustration in general. Yeah, and I thought it felt perfect for her. So now she does have buns and some ponytails with some added details, so it's not just, it's still a dark mask because she has no hairband, but it's a bit more visual interesting now. I really like it. It was really fun. About the colors in this illustration as well, like I said multiple times before, I try to be close to the old color palette. I don't like how they washed out Musa's look in the reboot. I don't mind her hair being a bit lighter, but I wish it would stay more of a bluish black instead of like the royal blue she has going on now. The deep blue of her and the deep red of her clothing just look so amazing together, especially with her fair skin tone. But in the reboot the dress leans more into a pinkish color instead of the red. And now Musa almost shares a palette with Flora. You could swap their outfits and from afar you wouldn't notice. That's such a shame because Musa's edge and personality is lost with that. It's not awful, but it's boring and it's replaceable. Fabric wise, I don't think I mentioned this in Stella's part. Oopsie. But it's like a repeating pattern in the reboot, so it doesn't really matter too much. The reboot fabric all look stiff and rubbery and plastic. Maybe it's the models, but yeah. I wish they would have added more life and sparkles to it. Unless that stiffness was intentional, in which case, why? For Musa I wanted her shirt and her skirt, like yeah, her top and her skirt to be looking more like a matte latex kind of fabric, more like an alternative choice. A little edgy but still obviously with sparkle. Glitter. The shimmer and the glitter are details I added at the very end because it's easy to get distracted by them before the shades and the values are locked in. That's just like a general way of my art process. Lastly, the wings. The reboot wings are okay. I like the little music note details, the yellow ones. At least I think it's supposed to be music notes, but the colors of the rings match her outfits too closely. Again, my contrast point. And also the shape is overall really generic. To fix that I went back with the OG wing shapes. Even as a kid I always thought they were supposed to look like the undersides of CDs. I don't know if they actually are, but like the color and also the shine on it gave me this impression. And it's a fun touch to the old design. And with that, Musa is also done. Out of all the redesigns so far, I think she's the one I changed the most compared to the original and the reboot design. She did give me some struggles because of that, but in the end I'm really happy how it turned out. The illustration I think looks really pretty. And with that, my second part of my Winx Club redesign series is done. One part left with Tekna and Layla. Yes, I call her Layla, not Asia, because that's the version I grew up with. And those two will also be really exciting, especially for Tekna. I'm excited. I've been having so much fun doing these kind of videos, and even more fun obviously drawing the characters. Like I said multiple times before, the Winx is such a nostalgic franchise for me, and creating something new out of it just brings me so much joy. And I know a lot of people feel the same, and that's the cool thing about fan art, connecting with people about something you both love and enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed this video as well. Go watch the first part with Bloom and Flora if you haven't yet, and then I'll see you in the third part of the Winx redesigns.